Wisdom is based on knowledge. You have to have the knowledge. And then you must understand what this knowledge means. 2 plus 2 equals 4. You can have that memorized, or you can have some facts memorized, but if you don't understand how they apply to you in your daily life, it's not really going to do you much good. So you need to have that understanding of the knowledge, and then you need to have the ability to apply that. And I've seen the word prudence being used as that. I just like to say wisdom is the application of these things, but it's fine either way. You have to be able to apply that wisdom, or it isn't wisdom. It's just you have the first two pieces, but the most important piece, which is the application, you fail at. And so a lot of us kind of have the knowledge, but we don't have the understanding. And one of the things that I was thinking about is when I was younger, I was a little bit afraid to trust God, because I learned that when you serve God, you're frequently attacked by the devil. And I don't know about you, but I don't need any more trouble in my life. Well, that may be true. It is true, but God helps you in those times. And really all I care about is being happy. That's my selfish desire. And so it doesn't really matter if the devil's attacking me if I'm happy. It might be a trial, but it's going to make me a stronger, wiser person. And that's going to make me happier. Staying a child does not make anybody happy. The people who are 30-year-olds living in their parents' basements with no, working a part-time job or something, and no offense if that applies to you, but I would say, if it does, you're not happy, because God wants us to go out in life and do things and serve Him and, Lord willing, have a family, things like that. At the very least, you need to serve God. So, moving back to the actual text, Proverbs 25. Let's see, we ended on, so we'll start in verse 14. One of the things I want to mention about the previous section is saying wise words and, giving, it talks about a word fitly spoken. If your speech isn't edifying, which means building something up, usually a person, right? Because we can't build buildings with our speech, but we use the word edifice. If you're not building stuff up and you're not talking in love, you probably should remain silent. Okay, and this goes to me. I got in trouble for talking too much just this weekend. So that's important to remember. And there was a section I talked about venting, and I forgot to use references out of the Bible that I had here. And so I want to read a few to you that I think can relate to venting or complaining. Because, as I said, a lot of people feel entitled to venting. And I get it, because this is the way the world is. This was an unjust act, or, my boss is making me work the weekend, I just want to vent. And there's some value to talking about stuff, okay? But there's no value to venting. It might make you feel a little better, but God doesn't like venting. He wants you to, in Philippians 2:14, do all things without murmurings and disputing. And as people have said, what's the word all mean? All, what does it mean? It means all, thank you. It doesn't just say do the just, fair, right things. It says do all the things. Do all the things. That's an internet meme. I found the blog that was from, by the way. It's hilarious. It's about this very hyperactive young girl believe it or not. Anyway, all the things. Do all things without murmurings and disputings. What does that mean? Murmurings, well, you're murmuring, you're grumbling, you're complaining. You know, how your kid says something, and I've done this too, I'm not, you know. He mutters something, he walks away, you know. Don't do that. God doesn't like it. All right, so let me just read the verse. Do all things without murmurings and disputings, that ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of God, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights of the world. So do all things without complaining. You want to be blameless and harmless, the sons of God, without rebuke. This is our testimony. This is where people talk about your testimony. When I was younger, I didn't know testimony had two meanings. My testimony was when I got saved. When I went to Bob Jones, everybody talked about, well, do you have a good testimony? I'm like, I'm good. Yeah, I mean, sure, I got saved. Here's my story. But, so we also use the word testimony as do you live and act like a Christian? Okay, however that is. People have expectations of Christians. Anybody who calls themselves a Christian. You know, it's one of those things of, you know, not swearing, of not drinking, of not fighting. You know, we have higher standards for Christians. So that is your testimony. Are you behaving in the right way? So that's one of the challenges, and kids these days really, I don't think are taught this. I probably haven't taught my kids this sufficiently. If you do something and it looks bad and it hurts your testimony, even if you're not doing anything wrong, well, that's a bad thing. Now things have changed, so whatever those things are, some places going to movies is bad, some places it's not. You know, it depends on the movie you watch, and you know, there's all sorts of rules, and I really learned that when I went to Bob Jones University, because they had a lot more rules and things that they viewed as bad. An example would be drinking IBC root beer. You guys know what that is? Okay, you do. So IBC root beer is a better root beer. Don't throw stones at me if you're mug root beer fans, but it's a more expensive root beer, and it tastes better, in my opinion. But it's in a brown bottle. It looks like beer. So if you think about it, root beer has the word beer in its name. So it's kind of appropriate. But one is alcoholic, one is not. One is under no circumstances, well, I guess maybe medical, appropriate for children, medical in a very, very desperate situation, like a painkiller if you're sawing their foot off after they didn't listen to you and went outside without their shoes on, stepped on a nail and got infected. Now it's gangrenous, and if you don't cut their foot off, they're going to die. I don't know why kids don't listen to me. Yeah, so one's okay and one's not. So Bob Jones, we had this thing called the Bridge of Nations out front. They flew all the flags of the countries of the people who attended. So there were like the few black people we had there, not because of racist, but were generally from Africa, countries in Africa. And so there would be these various African flags, but they flew them all at the same height. They got in trouble because apparently there's a state law saying you can't do that. Or no, they flew them in different heights based on the number of people. So, but then they got in trouble. They had to stop. You have to fly them at the same height, apparently. So, anyway, I digress. We had a little store on campus, and they started selling IBC root beer, and everybody was so happy. It's the simple things, especially when you're there and they literally have barbed wire around it, but it's the other way. It's to keep you in, not out. That's actually true. I think they installed it wrong. But they do have barbed wire on their walls. So we had it for I don't know how long. Less than a year before it got pulled off because some kids were walking across the Bridge of Nations drinking it, and some probably donor was driving in to campus and saw them drinking this, and so bang, no more IBC root beer for us. So this is why we can't have nice things. People run it. All right, back to venting. James 5:9, grudge not one against another, brethren, lest ye be condemned. Behold, the judge standeth before the door. This is talking to Christians, complaining about other Christians. We shouldn't do that. We just shouldn't. We shouldn't complain about anything, but we really shouldn't complain about other people. Like Justin. Like, it annoys me that he's so friendly and happy. It's really irritating. But you know what? That's my problem. I shouldn't complain. So I just gave you an example of what not to do. Okay? Don't do that. 1 Peter 4:9, use hospitality one to another without grudging. There we go again on the grudging. Using hospitality one to another. I actually had an opportunity to do this yesterday. So my sister called me the other day and said her daughter was moving to Nampa. And it was all happening very fast. And I'm like, I know she wants something here. Please don't ask me to help you move. I cannot tell you how much I hate moving. This is why we haven't changed houses in 20 years. It's not because we don't need a bigger house. We desperately do, but I don't want to move. So she didn't. She asked for something else, which didn't directly affect me, so I volunteered Rebecca. So she appreciated that. And then it turned out she didn't need help with that after all. That was childcare. So I volunteered Rebecca and the girls. Not that I don't mind watching the kid a little bit, but nobody trusts guys, which is fine. So then the time came, they move over, and Melody calls me the night before. She's like, hey, if you want to stop by, and visit. I'm like, okay, well, somebody probably will, because my wife's a nice person. So I talked to my wife and the girls, and we get some volunteers to go over and, say hi. But they're moving. I'm not stupid. They're going to end up helping, right? And that's what Melody hopes is going to happen as well. At the very least, they can watch the kids, right? So, but then you know what? The strangest thing happened, Hannah. I wanted to go too. Okay. And you know what else? I helped them. I moved boxes. I carried things up big stairs. And then I worked. One of their kids was fighting with the other kid because she had his toy, that he hadn't played with in years, but now she was playing with it. And I got him to help me unwrap the saran wrap stuff they put around a dresser, And then we did some other stuff. It was all stuff that does not come naturally to me because I don't have that gift. But I managed to do some stuff, and it wasn't horribly painful because, God gave me that ability just that once. It'll never happen again. Do not ask me to move. No, but if you ask me to move, I will help you with that. And I won't be grudging about it either. I will help you move. Once. Okay. If you move a lot, some people move a lot. Carissa has moved 4 times in 5 years, so she's a nurse. Exodus 16:8, and Moses said, this shall be when the Lord shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, for the Lord heareth your murmurings, which you murmur against him. Well, what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against the Lord. Okay, so this is very convicting to me. If you're complaining about your parents, your boss, your wife, whoever, pick somebody, the driver, you know, driver in the next car. God doesn't like it. And if you're complaining about people that he anointed, especially like your pastor, then, you know, you're complaining against the Lord. All right, so, spend enough time on that. But I did want to mention it. Verse 14. Whoso boasteth himself of a false gift is like clouds and wind without rain. See, it's not just Idaho that does this. This is the Middle East, right? I mean, Tennessee, apparently, if it's going to have rain, you know, you're going to get rain because there's all this moisture there. But I remember a pastor complaining, commenting, rather, about how he thought we were going to get a rainstorm. And then it was just turned into a dust storm. So he got that kind of rude awakening. It does not rain much here during the winter. I used to, when we started working, swathing, cutting hay, we could, you know, see the clouds from miles in any direction, right? This is big sky country. And we could see storms over there. And be like, oh, please, God, I need a break. Because we had to work long days, didn't get off for Sunday or anything. You had to go until it was done. And I did just want a break so bad. And so you'd be praying that storm cloud would just go crisscross the valley. And sometimes I swore it just like went around me. But other times God smiled on the poor person, and we did get rained out, and that was nice. So it's nice to have that dry, cooling rain in the proper time, and it's very disappointing when it's empty. And, you know, this can apply to overconfident teachers and preachers. Sometimes people think they have a gift for stuff, but they don't. And so it can be very disappointing. I think it can also be applied to, you know, experts now. I think that's applicable. They have all these experts, but they've been rudely awakened that you can't trust the experts. And you probably haven't been able to for a long time, but I think most people now really understand how corrupted these institutions are. One of the examples is simply taking the method we used for dating for centuries, BC and AD. Okay. Taking that and changing it to BCE and CE, I think. It's just woke nonsense. I mean, Jesus Christ's birth affected the entire world, whether you're a Christian or not. It's undeniable. It's a monumental time in the world. Anyway, so that's an example. False prophets also, I think. This is somebody who's bringing a message, and with the example of Hananiah and Jeremiah 28. Let's see, I'm going to go there, because this is a decent amount worth reading. All right, I'll just start at the beginning. And it came to pass, so this is Jeremiah 28, and it came to pass the same year in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 4th year and in the 5th month, that Hananiah, the son of Azur, the prophet, which was of Gibeon, spake unto me in the house of the Lord in the presence of the priests and of all the people, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, saying, I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Within 2 full years will I bring again this place all the vessels of the Lord's house, and Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, took away from his place and carried them to Babylon. And I will bring again to this place Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, with all the captives princes of Judah and went into Babylon, saith the Lord, for I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon. All right, so if you just read that, this is why the context is so important. We keep beating up on that context, so much so that one of my daughters sent me a funny meme about taking things out of context. You would be deceived. So Jeremiah said unto the prophet Hananiah, in the presence of all the priests and in the presence of all the people that stood in the house of the Lord, even the prophet said, let's see. Actually, it's kind of confusing if I don't jump to 15. Then said the prophet, so go to verse 15. Then said the prophet of Jeremiah unto Hananiah the prophet, Hear now, Hananiah, the Lord hath not sent thee, but thou makest this people to trust in a lie. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will cast thee from the face of the earth. This year thou shalt die, because thou hast taught rebellion against the Lord. So, in short, Hananiah lied. He sent a hopeful yet false message, because it continued far longer. None of this stuff happened. Hananiah died 2 months later, roughly. So that must have been fun, waiting for that judgment, knowing you're going to die soon, but not really knowing when. All right, verse 15. By long forbearing, a prince persuaded, and a soft tongue breaketh the bone. Soft tongue breaketh the bone. So when I thought of this, I thought of the parable from Luke 18. One of the things I didn't know about parables is parables are not like for like God uses them to represent, like, appealing to him, but that doesn't mean that God has the same attributes of the characters in the story. So this is a judge, and it's an unjust judge. And he spoke a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, saying, There was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man. And there was a widow in that city, and she came to him, saying, Avenge me of mine adversary. And he would not for a while. But afterward he in within himself, Though I fear not God, nor regard man. Yet, because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. Okay. And the Lord said, Hear what the unjust judge saith, and shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth? Nevertheless, when the man shall couch. Okay, that's a question mark at the end. Sorry, my eye's bothering me still, so I've got some stuff that makes it hard to see. So, God is not an unjust judge. So that's important to remember, because it confused me on these parables. Okay, he's saying, an unjust judge, if you nag him enough, will do the right thing. God is just. He sometimes does the right thing immediately, or he always does the right thing, right? Okay, but sometimes he'll do what you want immediately, and sometimes he doesn't. And my children have had some experiences with that recently. One of my daughters lost her phone. Big crisis on Friday. Okay, and I'm like, well, she didn't just lose her phone. She lost all the pictures of Kelly not this Kelly. Different Kelly. Much cuter, but
very handsome. So she last had pictures of this baby Kelly. She was very upset. I'm like, what? But she talks right into them back to Walmart. She wanted that phone, let me tell you. And I wanted her to find that phone because I wanted to buy her another one. So, we were all praying. But they didn't find that phone until yesterday. And they found that phone in a place that they don't understand how it could have been there. And they found that phone out in the snow. In our driveway, by a vehicle we
haven't driven in months. They don't know why it was there. They can't figure it out. But it was just sitting there. We let it dry out, charged it up, it works fine. Okay? So, through losing this one phone, anybody in our house who cared about it, Claude probably wasn't paying much attention. And I was mostly paying attention because of all the rending of clothing and ashes on the head and sackcloth and whatnot. But it strengthens my daughter's faith because they get to see this. God didn't answer right away, but you know what? He did answer. And that's not, oh, she just dropped it there. That's like, we racked our pea-sized brains in trying to figure out where she was when she used it last. We were all thinking, I was asking questions, and, we had no idea why it was found where it was. Okay, that was God. Okay, did I doubt that God would help her find the phone? No, I didn't, because I've had so many experiences now where I have lost things, and I just pray about it, and eventually it turns up. It's like magic almost, except it's better. So, God will answer your prayers. He wants you to have a relationship with Him. And if you don't have a relationship with Him, He will bring trial in your life. And then you have a chance. You either choose to turn towards having a relationship with Him more and better, or you turn away and harden your heart. God will force you to have a relationship with Him. But He will try to do things for you because He cares about you. Why do we still spank our children? I spank my children not just because the Bible says so. I spank my children. I used to. It's been a while. Although I did offer Serenity the other day. She didn't pick me up on it. Because it's good for them. It's good for you to spank your children. People say, why would you ever hit a kid? Yeah, thanks for that. Why would you ever hit a kid? I'm not hitting a kid. I'm not socking them in the jaw. We got a shock collar for our new dog who has anxiety issues. And my daughters don't want to put it on her because it upsets the dog. I'm like, well, you know what upsets her having anxiety issues and whining and barking? That upsets me. So we need to put the collar on her. That doesn't mean we have to shock her. But she knows if the collar goes on her, she better shut her mouth. Okay? We don't even have to shock her. And if she starts barking, we just push a button that makes the noise. And she's like, she shuts up. That's it. It's just a collar that goes beep. I probably could save some money if I just bought a remote thing that made noise and strapped it to her. We do that because it's necessary. But, God's great, and a soft tongue does breaketh the bone. So we just need to be persistent in our prayers. You want somebody to be saved? Pray about them. But pray with some faith. Pray fervently. God has done so many miracles. As far as I'm concerned, miracles, paying off the church was one. I never thought that would happen. Well, I'm glad somebody did, because it happened. So what does that do for me? It strengthens my faith. So you pray for things, you pray for them with faith. I've lost this pocket knife many times. This pocket knife is precious to me. My dad gave it to me. He lost it. And he bought another one. And then he found it. And he had driven over it and it was broken, so he fixed it. And he gave it to me. It's got his initials on it. And so
I've had this for over 20 years. I'm close to 30 now. And I've lost it times. And I've prayed fervently.
I almost lost it once going through airport security. I was like, I'm not throwing this thing away. You know, if I bought it at Walmart, it had no meaning to me, I would have just thrown it in the trash and been upset, but thrown it away. And I prayed about it, and then God reminded me of a time when my brother Curtis had this experience as well. He was going through airline security. He's a big shot at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and he had something he didn't want to throw it away, so he went and he found a planter. And he dug down in the planter, and he put it in there, and he covered it up. He went on his trip, he came back, and he went to the planter. Lo and behold, it was there. Because nobody digs through planters trying to find buried treasure, because that's insane. Okay, so that's what I did, and you know what? That worked. And there was another time when I had to do it, where I didn't expect to have to go through a metal detector. So you know, because God, this is important to me, and I'm praying. You know, if I lose it sometime, I will be sad. I'm not going to throw a hissy fit and be mad at God, though, because God will be trying to teach me something through that. Proverbs 25:16, hast thou found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be filled therewith and vomit it. Well, this seems pretty common sense. Overindulging is just, you know, you need to have some level of discipline when you eat. Kids overeat their Halloween candy, at least when I was a kid. I don't know. I mean, a lot of kids were being told not to eat sugar at all when they were growing up. My wife didn't really get to eat candy. We didn't get to eat candy, not because my parents were against it, but because we didn't have money to spend on candy. So, if I went with my mom to the store and I helped her shop, then I got to buy a 10-cent candy. I bought a candy bar the other day. I haven't bought one in years. I don't know how much it costs, like $4 or something. Maybe that wasn't how much, but it was way more than I expected it to be, and I was somewhat stunned. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 6:12 really quick. All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. So, this is talking about things that are lawful for you versus not. You know, there are certain things that God has forbidden or, you know, are illegal. Those things are obviously not lawful. So, of the lawful things, such as playing video games, you can play them, but you can't have them rule your life. My old boss, who was a great boss, really miss him. I was making some comment about a game platform, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I don't play games because I just He has no self-control, so he just doesn't do it. And in my life, with 6 kids, it's pretty busy. So if I find I like video games, video games got me into computers. So the video games help me build into a skill which, I support my family. So they're not just evil. Now, if you think they're evil, that's fine. Then don't play the video games. But for me, they're not evil. They're helpful, but they can be relaxing. But they can take over as well. So whether it's video games or honey or candy or cheesecake, you need to have a level of discipline. And if you can't, you just can't indulge in it. So, I try to find biblical examples as much as I can. Sometimes I forget a little bit. But there was an example of somebody who overindulged in something, and that was Noah, and he overindulged in drink. Now, I'm not going to argue about the merits of alcohol. I've already talked about that plenty. There aren't very many. I would advise do not drink, and Proverbs does as well. But Noah had not followed that advice. And one of the problems with alcohol is, as you drink more, your ability to control yourself decreases. So the more you drink, the less control you have until you're going on. You wonder how people do multiple day benders. Well, that's how. They've got so much alcohol in their system. The part that keeps their common sense active is suppressed. Well, so Noah got drunk and was wandering around naked. Well, the main part of that verse focuses on Ham. But I want to just point out, this wouldn't have happened if Noah had followed Proverbs 25:16. Am I being critical of Noah? No. I'm just pointing out something that's truthful. Sure, Noah was a great man. He obeyed God in the time. You want to talk about peer pressure, man. That guy was under a lot of peer pressure. Who wants to be thought of as crazy? That offends you. We like to think we're smart and whatnot. So, use wisdom. If you find yourself not being able to control yourself, and this is, my kids like to play video games too. This is advice for them. Whatever it is, it can be something that's normally a wholesome thing. I think about the only thing I don't see people overindulging in is, serving God. Although there have been pastors who have gotten their priorities wrong, and you have to take care of your family and serve God. And I have heard some stories from pastors where they were always prioritizing other people over their wife. And you can't do that. Your wife, if she's a good woman, which I'm sure she is, she will be understanding. But you can't always do that. There are times when your wife has to be more important, because she is more important, quite frankly. God comes first, and then your spouse. Your spouse has to be more important than your children. This is one of the issues with getting remarried, right? Woman gets married, has kids, they get divorced 20 years later, whatever. Then they get remarried, 10, 15-year-old kid. Dad says something to the kid about respecting your mother. Mother gets mad at dad. How dare you be so mean to my child? Do you know how many times that has happened? Countless. And I know somebody who's very close to me who that blew up their marriage to the point that they now live in separate houses. So they're still married, but they live in separate houses in separate towns. So figure that one out, because I can't. Anyway, all right, we'll end there. And I'll pray to dismiss. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for loving us, taking care of us, and just helping us in just every way and everything we do. I just pray that we can internalize the messages and just the lessons that you give us. And instead of complaining about them, Lord, help us use them to grow and to thank you for making us a better people, a better person, to edifying us and building us up and purifying us, Lord. Help us to serve you. Lord, I pray for the messages today. Just pray that you would bless the song service and the message, and one in the evening as well, Lord. Just pray that you would bring people out, Lord, and that they would be open and receptive to your